Thank you everybody for joining us. This shiur topic is it better to go to work or learn in KOLLEL, learn Torah the whole day if they support you? So dedicating this shiur for the neshama of my father, Shlomo Chaim ben David. It's Rav Ovadia's yartzheit. So the whole class is based on his wonderful work. He addresses this issue in Yabia Omer Chelek Zayin. Yoreh deah 17. Respondent number 17. He says something very interesting. First of all, since it's his 5th year passing, Rav Whadya, he passed away 5 years ago, and he was the Prince of Torah. Im yeh kol hachachamim. If all the sages were on one side of the scale and him on the other, he would tip them over, like what it says in Rav Elazar ben Anhorkinos. That's my humble opinion. He was the light of the nation of Israel. Rav Ovadia, just parenthetically, I mentioned this in Farsi like an hour ago for the other shiur I gave. You know, he did something monumental. Actually, I was debating since it's yartzheit, which shuv and yabia I should choose. Should I talk about the wigs? Should I talk about the heter that he has is better to wear pants than short skirts, or the heter agunot? You know, Rav Ovadia did something monumental. Like I said before, 900 women that their husband had perished in the Yom Kippur War, unfortunately. He had the guts to take the responsibility to determine that they were deceased, and he gave them permission to get remarried, which is a tremendous, tremendous risk involved in that. And you know, Rav Ovadia also has something wonderful about him, kocha deah. He was the ultimate Bet Hillel. He wanted to make halacha not something that was extraordinarily difficult, but like the Gemara says, something that based on strong backbones and pillars of halacha and Rambam and Shulchan Aruch, that to make the keeping of Jewish law easier and more convenient for us to have that wonderful relationship with our Creator, not compromising, God forbid, the integrity of halacha, like Bet Hillel. Bet Hillel, God forbid, wasn't chas v'chalila reform or conservative or anything like that. And probably, you know, he created that wonderful political party which advanced the Sephardim Shas, but probably the crown jewel which Rav Ovadia did was, in the end of this week's Parshat Noach, we read about Avram. He made a revolution, and he brought monotheism and the worship of God to the world. Rav Ovadia really, his life mission, which for our practical purposes is the most monumental achievement that he did, was he always said, Lahachzir atara liyoshna. And don't get me dirty. Politics, as we saw with Judge Kavanaugh, and is very dirty. Rav Ovadia was willing to go into the dirty politics in order to bring the glory of Sephardic Jews back to the time of the Rambam and the Ramban and Nachmanides and the Chidah and the Rishonim, the Rashba and the Ritva, and all of those Geoneh and Gedolei Olam. And he was so successful. A lot of people don't know. The first Purat Yosef did not have a kollel. Did you know that? I did not know that till last night. I was reading his biography. He made a kollel that was specifically there to make dayanim and judges, and on a fast track for them to learn the way he wanted to learn. Al pi halacha. It was called Or Torah. He made it in 1951. Rav Shalom Cohen, which is one of the Gedolei Ador of the Sfardim, he's the head of Shas and the Motzis Chachmei Torah, and Rav Badani. And, you know, of course, Rav Ovadia gets tremendous amount of credit for what he did, but also his great partner in bringing the crown jewel, the glory of Sephardic Jewish, the Torah, which is our crown jewel, was Harav Ezra Atiyah, and of course Chacham Ben Zion, Rabbi Yehuda Sadka. But you know, the Sephardim made a little mistake around 100 years ago, until Rav Ovadia came around and his mentor and his colleagues. They invested more time and effort in synagogues rather than in Jewish education, and that's a mistake I could attest to personally. On Yom Kippur, I almost had 1,000 around 800 people here pray with us. But the ultimate thing that will change and make a revolution in Klal Yisrael is the education. And Rav Ovadia, every second he would spread Torah. And we have to be proud that many of his earlier people that supported him and really gave him the chizuk to become what he became were Sephardic, were Persian Jews, Yazdim and Esfahanim. So it's for this reason that I chose this topic. Because Rav Ovadia, there was a time where there was very, very few Bnei Torah. You know what Bnei Torah means? Very learned Jews, Sephardic Jews. In Iran, we didn't have it much either. We didn't have a yeshiva system there either, really. But Rav Ovadia, through his establishing that political movement of Shas, and just his personality, he was just a giant of a human being, spreading Torah so much. He really did make a revolution, and now we can be so proud that in Israel, every hook and cranny, every corner, you see kollels, and we have thousands upon thousands, tens of thousands upon tens of thousands. Whoever would have dreamt something like this 60, 70 years ago, of Sephardic Talmidei Chachamim. They write amazing Sfarim. Like Rabbi Zakai, he's a Persian, and every year he writes a new Sefer, and many, many other countless. Question here is it the ethical and right thing to do that if you go to a graduate school, which is called KOLLEL, where you study Talmud and Halacha and Kabbalah in depth, and you learn Torah the rest of your life, and obviously you teach it, because I must say, my Rebbe Umoiri Rav Shlomo Wolbe said, "En lecha hevel." The Medrash in Shir HaShirim says, in Kohelet, I apologize, says, Hevel Havalim. So the Medrash, you look over there in Medrash Rabbah, it says, En lecha hevel yoter gadol ba'olam shemi shelomet Torah ve'lo melamda. The most ridiculous thing is somebody that knows the glory of Torah, the knowledge of Torah, and doesn't teach it. And obviously that's what Rav Ovadia, Rav Yitzchak Yosef even was saying, that Rav Ovadia would always tell his Talmidim, not everybody needs to live in Jerusalem, go out to Tel Aviv, the other cities, and become Rabbanim of Shuls and spread Torah to the masses, because that's what Rav Ovadia was. But the question is very like this. I don't want to get on too much of a tangent. They asked Rav Ovadia, is it the right thing to do that if they're supporting you, you're going to learn Torah and teach it the rest of your life, not work? Not pull up your sleeves and become a mechanic or a doctor or a lawyer? Or is it better to, most of your day you work hard, and in the end of the day, what happens? You learn a little bit Torah. Which one of these is better? So first of all, we have to understand, the most ancient of partnerships was between Yisachar and Zevulun. Jacob, Yaakov Avinu had our patriarch. He had a son Zevulun, and he had a son Yisachar. Yisachar was that professor of Torah, but much more than a professor. He was a living Torah. He would embody the Torah, fear of God, love of God, modesty of God. And the Medrash, if you look, Rabbah, chapter 72, he says that there was 200 in the history of the Jewish Supreme Court, 200 of the heads of it were from the tribe of Yisachar. And how their words were so clear and they were so wise that when they would give a halachic ruling, it was like halacha Moshe Sinai. Now, how did they were able to become such great Torah scholars? Well, you got to give the credit where credit was due. Obviously, the credit is ultimately due to Hashem. But they had a wonderful brother named Zevulun. And Zevulun was a great, great trader. Not like Trader Joe's, even better. He would go and he owned boats and he would trade. And he would put food and all the physical necessities in the mouth of his brother. What? Yisachar. And Yisachar was totally 100% dedicated to what? Learning Torah. That's why his symbol is like a donkey, because he had a big, big burden of Torah on his shoulders that he never, and you know, the beauty of a donkey is it even sleeps with the burden. It doesn't throw it off. The Talmid Chacham always has to have the burden of, always his mind has to be occupied with Torah. Like the Gemara says, who's a Talmid Chacham? that he doesn't walk 8 feet without thinking Torah. He's obsessed with Torah. Torah. He is Torah, and everything he thinks about and does. And about Zevulun, it says, Etz chaim hi lemachazikim ba v'tomchei me'oshar. Zevulun, by supporting Yisachar's Torah endeavor and becoming an expert and scholar in Torah, he's holding on to the tree of life. V'tomchei me'oshar. And Zevulun was tremendously blessed with a very, very wonderful life. So we have to know that this partnership of some people working and some people learning Torah the whole day is ancient. The Gemara says in Sotah, page 21, Chaf Aleph, Amud Aleph, that Im yiten ish et kol hon beto boz yavuzulo. It says, if somebody is willing to give all the treasure and billions of dollars in his house, they make fun of him. So the Gemara says, Lo kishimon achye Azariah. Shimon, the brother of Azariah. Because again, Shimon, and not like Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi. There was 2 brothers, Shimon, he would learn Torah the whole day. His brother Azariah was like Zevulun. He would go work. So from the beginning, they made a Tanai, a condition that we're going to be partners. I bring the physicality and you give a portion of your heaven in the next world, right? When we pass away, I'm also going to go to heaven. I didn't learn that much Torah. Since I was the cause of you learning Torah, then it's like I learned Torah myself. Because I supported it. I was the supporting pillar of it. And you have to also understand that the Gemara there says that the great Tana that wrote the Yerushalmi, and he's on almost every page of the Babli, Rabbi Yochanan, which was with Resh Lakish, he was supported by the house of the Nasi, by the prince of the Jews. So again, something important to understand is that this, for 2 people, one person is going to learn Torah. It's called the Yisachar Zevulun partnership, which a lot of kollels do. My brother-in-law, a shout out to him, Rabbi Eli, is Rosh Kollel, showed me a document that they have it. It's like a document they sign it. You cannot sell your heaven to somebody retroactively. This is a very important point. The Gemara here in Sotah is teaching us that if from the get-go somebody wants to start learning in Kollel, then somebody says, I'll support you, you learn, that's a perfect thing, and it's very kosher, and it's very ethical. And just like this brother gives half of his money to the brother that's learning Torah, like Yisachar, and he gives his reward in the world to come, that's kosher. What is the Gemara says? Buz yobuzulo, it's about Hillel. The most famous rabbi of the Talmud was Rabbi Akiva and Hillel. Hillel was a fascinating person. He was very, very destitute and poor. But guess what? He had a rich brother named Shabna. Shabna was not the greatest of all people. He neglected Hillel and said, we know from the story in the Gemara in Yuma that he went on the skylight to try to learn Torah. He was so poor, he didn't have that little speck, that little shekel to give and go learn Torah. Retroactively, when his brother Shabna saw that Hillel became so glorious and so honorable, and he became the leader and the prince of the Jews, the Nasi, said, oh, now can I come and buy off your Olam Haba? That's what it says in the Pasuk in Ketuvim. Boz yabuzulo. They make, if you give, see, retroactively, Shabna gets the short end of the stick. Even if he's willing to give all of his money in the world, he can't retroactively go and get what? The zechur of the Torah. Because you snooze, you lose. And this idea is already brought down by the great Rabbeinu Yerucham, one of the great Rishonim, is quoted constantly by Maran Bet Yosef. He says very clearly, Rabbeinu Yerucham, I'm reading it for you verbatim. He says, "Ha'osek b'Torah yachol leitanot im ish haba la'achzik bo kodem she'yasok b'Torah she'itul chelek min limudo." If you want to, before you start on your endeavor of becoming a master of Torah, You can have somebody support you, and that's fine. That's kosher. That's halachically viable. That person gets a merit of the Torah that you learn. See, the Rabbeinu Yerucham concurs with the Gemara in Sotah that, right? So guys, you know the joke. There's a joke about this. Like somebody his whole life, he was a big tzaddik. Now this billionaire comes to him and says, oh, sell me all of the good mitzvahs that you did so I also go. No. The Gemara there already says, retroactively, such games don't work. You can't sell your zechut, your merit of Torah, to somebody retroactively. The Shach concurs with this. But if you look at the Lashon of the Shach, Rav Ovadia brings that it seems that maybe the person that is being supported will lose half of his olam haba, which means, for example, the way we understand in Kabbalah is like if you were going to get first row seats where the rays of the Shekhinah are beaming, now that you sold and you were supported, your reward in heaven is going to be half. That Rav Ovadia proves from the Chidah and the Orach Chaim and the Afla is absolutely wrong. And if you look, I looked in the KOLLEL, I was in Israel, they actually, when they write their contract between Yisachar and Zevulun, they write like the Orach Chaim. Please take a look at this Orach Chaim. It's in Parshat Kitisa. It talks about over there the Machasit HaShekel. And the Orach Chaim says that everybody needs to give a half a shekel. And a shekel HaKodesh, right? A holy shekel, not a shekel, regular shekel, because there's two different species of and types of shekel. Look what the Orach Chaim HaKodesh writes. He says this is alluding to what Yisachar and Zevulun did and Shimon Achai Azariah did. And he said, those people that are so gracious, because that's also a big test. Between me and you, who gets more reward, Yisachar or Zevulun? Zevulun gets more, because he had to put his blood and tears and sweat to make that money, and now he gives half of it to his brother. That's very, very applaudable. I mean, that's just beyond amazing. So he says, those gracious philanthropists that donate to Torah, it says, he brings a pasuk to Orach Chaim, it says, Besela chokhmah, besela kesef. In the shadow of wisdom is the shadow of money. So look what the Rabbi Yochanan says, the Gemara Psachim, Nun Gimel says, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Kol hamatil malekis la'amech zochev v'yoshev yeshiva shamala. The Gemara Psachim says, whoever fills up the pockets of rabbis, of Torah scholars to learn Torah, he's also going to sit in heaven with them, next to them. Because it says, Besela chokhmah. So the Orach Chaim comes and says, B'shekel HaKodesh, this chatzi shekel is B'shekel HaKodesh, to kadeh lehodia sha'machzik b'talmid chacham yitol ba'ad machzit kaspo. It's true. In the money, they split half and half, right? So Zevulun makes $1 million, he gives $500,000 of it to Yisachar. But how about the reward? He says, don't worry, both of them get complete reward from God. It's not like you did 1 trillion mitzvot to Talmid Chacham. Now, when he comes to Olam Haba, he's going to only have $500 billion in his account. No. Because he says, V'lo yinakeh klal machsit haklal shel osek b'torah, sheken nimsa, shekol echad mehem yitol machasit hasecher bilvad. V'lo ken hu. It says, regarding the reward, it's not like machasit hashekel that you only get half. Ki hu shekel hakodesh, machasit hashekel. Because regarding holiness, if I support you and I'm willing to get supported by you, it doesn't make me, the Talmid Chacham's reward, less. Ki shekel hakodesh kaful haya v'chol b'chad neseh shekel shalem. So therefore, regarding holiness, it says shekel hakodesh, which means it's a full reward. And the Hafla also agrees with this idea, because maybe a Talmid Chacham would be reluctant to get supported and being kollel. Because why should I give half of my mitzvot away? I'll learn, and then anything I learn, I get the full reward. Hafla says no, it's like a light. Just like the Torah is kiner mitzvah v'torah or. So just like when you light a light, you take from this candle, you could light 100 candles. Does it make the original candle the light of the original candle less? No. So the person that supports Torah and the person that is getting supported, the Yisachar, he need not be worried that he's going to lose out in Olam Haba. They're going to take his Olam Haba like a cake and cut it in half, or a pie, cut it in half and give it to the other guy. No, it's like a light. And the Chida also says this mefurash. He says that the same way, a wife of a Talmid Chacham is also like a Zebulun, right? The Gemara talks about, and I talked about this last week in my shiur regarding getting married. What's more important? I don't know if you saw that. Getting married or learning Torah, which one comes first, based on the Gemara Kedushin. We are living in a world, in a place that we really, really have to give credit where credit is due, and that's the wonderful women. First of all, we have to thank Chaya Schneerson for making the Beis Yaakov movement. And they're women that they have this extraordinarily love of Torah, and they're willing to sacrifice and not have anything fancy. No fancy home, no fancy dress, no fancy jewelry, no fancy anything. For why? Because they love Torah so much. So the Chida writes the same thing. He says, don't think that when the Talmid Chacham goes to heaven and his wife went and worked instead of him and she supported him, the same thing. It's like a flame of a candle. The Talmid Chacham is not going to have to, like a cake, take his Olam Haba and give it half to her. Both of them are going to be on the same high, lofty cloud 9 in the next world. And then the Chida says, Mefurash, V'chen hadin b'machzikei dibidei talmidei chachamim. Same way, people that, whether the wife of the Talmid Chacham or the brother or the partner of the Talmid Chacham that supports the Talmid Chacham, he's going to get his awesome reward from God. And the Talmid Chacham's reward is not going to be subtracted. And that it says, Ya'alezu chasidim bechavod haTorah. So all the chasidim don't have to be paranoid that they're selling away their heaven just to be able to learn Torah. Although, you know that when you really get engrossed Torah, it may be worth it even to do that because it's such a pleasure. If you want to see the light of Olam Haba in this world, you go into the Torah Sheba'al Peh. And, okay, but now there's a big monkey wrench that we have to deal with. It's the Rambam. The Rambam is not such a big advocate of this. We look in the Rambam, chapter 3, Hilchot Talmud Torah Halacha Yud. The Rambam clearly states this in where, Shani? In the thing, in the Pirush HaMishnayot also, throughout Pirush HaMishnayot. So the Rambam basically says, whoever just wants to learn Torah and not work and get money from charity, this is a desecration of the name of God, the Rambam writes. And he's going to lose his Olam Haba. He's going to lose, God forbid.
But there's a whole big Kesef Mishnah on that, though.
Yeah. We're going to deal with the Kesef Mishnah. Because you can't have benefit from Torah in this world. And that's why in Pirkei Avot it says, love labor and hate being the boss, being the rabbi, being in charge of everything. Ohevet HaMelacha Usnat HaRabbanut. So he says, any Torah that does not have work with it is going to be wasted and cause sin. And that's why in Pirkei Avot it says, don't make the Torah business to become a millionaire and billionaire out of. And the Rambam in Pirkei Avot, he mirrors this image. So what do you do with the Rambam? So already from the earliest Rishonim, they come to understand the Rambam in a different light, not verbatim. The Rashbetz says something very important, and that is, Ki chovahi al Yisrael lefarnes b'derech kavod lechachamim v'dayanim asher toratam u'munatam. The Rashbetz says, listen, one second, hold your horses here. We know we Jews are not allowed to sue each other. And those people that go to Bet Din are doing the biggest sin if they don't agree. Even if the Bet Din said you lose $1 million, for money you don't sell your soul to the devil. If the Dayanim said, it's like God said. So we Jews, the Rashbet says, listen, somebody that is full-time a community servant, because the service community needs its services, right? Like a rabbinical judge. Because we're not allowed to have
For their time.
right. You're not allowed to have a secular people resolve any financial issue amongst Jews. And he says, first of all, we learned this from the Kohen Gadol. The Rashbitz brings a beautiful raya. He says if a Kohen Gadol is the most learned of all the Kohanim, but he also has to be the most wealthy, right? Because on any level, right, it says like a Navi has to be wealthy, and Shechina Shoreh, the Gemara Nedarim, he has to be wise, and he has to be Chacham, and he has to be Gibor, and he has to be wealthy. So he says, Sheyeh Gadol Me'echav B'nuyui, the Kohen Gadol has to be number one in physical power and wisdom and wealth. So let's say a Kohen Gadol, he's perfect in everything, but he's not wealthy. So all the Kohanim will donate money to make him what? Wealthier. So he says, and this is a Mefursha Tosefta in Pinchas, that this is exactly what the custom was. And none other than the great Rabbi Yosef Karo, which wrote one of the most important commentaries on the Rambam, right there, he argues on the Rambam. Which I want to explain the Rambam very clearly. It's not really argument. I was shocked Rav Ovadia doesn't bring the Rambam in Hilchot Shemitah Yovel, but we'll deal with that in a second. He says that, first of all, we know throughout Shas there were rabbis that did not work and were supported either by the exarch, by the prince of the Jews, by the Jewish government, or by the wealthy Jews like Yisachar and Zebulun. Like in Gemara Gittin, page 60, Hayu Shipura Debei Rabbi Nesiya, and the Gemara in Chulin, Kuf Lamed Daled, Hayu Shaked Didanya, the Gemara in Sota, that it says Rabbi Yochanan was supported by the Nasi. And he says this is the custom of throughout the generations. Look at what the Bet Yosef writes. The Kesef Mishnah, which is the same person as the Bet Yosef, which is the same person as what? The Shulchan Aruch. Rabbi Yosef Karo says, "Lechen ra'inu etzel kol chachamei Yisrael kodem zman Rabbeinu b'charav." He says the Rambam is an exception to the rule. First of all, how many Rambams did we have in the history in the last 1,000 years? One. I mean, Kahati was a pretty amazing person, but it was definitely no Rambam, right? The Chaya Adam also was amazing. It's like one out of a 1,000 or 1,000,000 Chachamim could be like the Rambam. The Bet Yosef is saying, we said before the Rambam, everybody was getting supported by the community. After the Rambam, all the Jewish leaders were being supported by the community. This was the custom. And he says, even if you want to tell me the Rambam is right, Et la'asot la'Hashem, hifiru toratecha. When we are in galut, right? When we live in a society where there's Holocaust and Jews are being raped and killed, like in the Inquisition and in the pogroms, then listen, work is very important. No money, no honey, right? If you don't have a good... But that I'm going to explain in a second. But
yeah, but it's funny.
The thing is like this. The bottom line is, the main thing is the Torah. No Torah, no Judaism. Right? Even all the Israeli Jews that live in Israel, you see when they don't have Torah, they come out of Israel, they all get assimilated. It's so unfortunate.
Yeah, a lot of people like to quote the Rambam, but they forget the Rambam spent how many years making the Mishnah Torah.
Exactly.
He locked himself up for how many years?
No, the Rambam was an exception to the rule because Rav Ovadia in another tshuva in Yechavedat says, bottom line, in the end of Gemara and Kiddushin, Rav Meir says that the best profession is Torah, and I'm going to teach my kid Torah, which kind of like this is. He says, "Me'olam no nitzcheni." Rabbi Shua ben Levi in Gemara and Eruvin says the only person that was able to win me in a debate was the person that knew Melacha Echad. So I think yes. In the time of Shas, Rabbi Yochanan HaSandler was a shoemaker, and there is definitely many Chachamim, the Rambam is right, I mean it's a fact, that had their profession. Yeah, Rabbi Meir himself was a sofer.
Yeah, but they were Talmidei Chachamim first.
Exactly, and that's why the Bet Yosef says, we have to put what the Rambam says aside. If that system is not working for you to be a Talmid Chacham, than to, like the Marshal's going to say, we can't throw the Torah away and all of us become assimilated, and when the Torah be forgotten from the nation of Israel. Because the Bet Yosef says, if we don't finance the people that teach our children Torah, first it all starts from, right, ABCs, Aleph Bet. How could the guy, we're living in a system where the world is definitely by no means perfect. If the guy's going to say, hey, if you don't pay me for my time, then bye-bye. I have to feed my children. Right? There's also halacha that your own life takes precedence. So why should I dedicate myself to community service? And therefore, the Bet Yosef said, if God forbid, we would want to try to follow the Rambam's advice, as stark and as serious he is about it, the Torah would be forgotten from the nation of Israel. And therefore, it's much better to support people that dedicate all their time and money to teach Torah. That the main thing in the world, which is the Torah, if 1 second the Torah wouldn't be learned, the world would be crumbled and go back to Tohu Vavohu. It shouldn't. And the Marshal in the Yam Shel Shlomo really says this also, that if we don't do this, if we don't support the teachers of Torah and the yeshivot and the kollelim, the Torah is going to be, God forbid, forgotten from the nation of Israel. Nobody can become a Torah giant and also work at the same time. It's a matter of practicality. The Rambam, amazing. He was the Sultan's doctor, but far and few between. He was one out of a million. So he says that the Rosh Yeshiva, especially Rosh Yeshiva, he has to deal with the students. It's like, what, you want the Rosh Yeshiva, instead of advising the students and giving them semicha to go work half a day? It really doesn't make any sense. And really, that's what we have to understand, that really this is their profession. This guy is running a yeshiva. This guy is running kiruv to Jewish Hadrid. This guy is a rabbi. He's paying the synagogue's bills. He's the synagogue's manager in a way. He's preparing classes. He's dedicating himself. He's a free psychologist for this community, right? And so on and so forth. And just to bring out Rav Moshe Feinstein, which was kind of like the Rav Ovadia of America, he's the Mara the Asuras of America. Rav Moshe also says, listen, those people that want to work, they when you tell them go learn in KOLLEL, they say no way, Jose, because of the Rambam. He says, he says, they'll tell you is, okay, I have to work, and if I have time, I'll learn a little bit, a few seconds, a few minutes of Torah. It says, and they said, no, chas v'shalom, I should learn in KOLLEL. Rav Moshe says this in the 5th chelik of Igros Moshe.